Once during his summer holidays, a young boy went to visit his grandfather in their village. The boy loved spending time with his grandpa, playing games, listening to stories, and helping him with small chores. One day, as they were sitting under the shade of a large tree in the backyard, the boy asked, "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to be a successful man. Can you tell me how I can achieve success?" His grandfather smiled warmly and said, "Of course, my boy. But instead of telling you, let me show you." Curious, the boy followed his grandfather to the nearby plant nursery. There, the grandfather purchased 2 small saplings. Once home, he planted one sapling in a clay pot and placed it inside the house, away from the sunlight. The second sapling was planted in the open backyard, exposed to the elements. As the boy helped his grandfather, he asked, "Grandpa, which of these 2 plants will grow better?" The grandfather stroked his beard thoughtfully and replied, "What do you think?" The boy thought for a moment and said, "The one inside the house will grow better because it's safe. It won't have to deal with storms, animals, or harsh sunlight." The grandfather nodded and said, "Let's see." The boy soon returned to the city with his parents. 4 years later, the boy came back to visit his grandfather. This time, he was taller, smarter, and still full of questions. As they sat together, the boy said, "Grandpa, last time I asked you about success, and you didn't really answer me. But this time, you have to tell me." His grandfather smiled and said, "Before I answer, let me show you something. Come with me." He led the boy to the 2 saplings they had planted years ago. First, they went inside the house. The sapling in the pot had grown into a small, frail plant. Its branches were thin, and its leaves were pale. "Now," said the grandfather, "let's see the one outside." When they reached the backyard, the boy gasped in amazement. The sapling planted in the open had grown into a massive tree. Its trunk was strong, its branches stretched wide, and its thick leaves provided shade to anyone who stood beneath it. Birds chirped happily in its branches. The grandfather turned to the boy and asked, "Now tell me, which plant grew better?" "The one outside," the boy replied. "But how is this possible? The outside plant had to face so many dangers, storms, animals, and harsh sunlight. How did it grow so big and strong?" The grandfather chuckled and said, "That's exactly the lesson I wanted to teach you. The plant inside the house was safe, but it was also limited. It didn't have to face any challenges, so it remained weak. On the other hand, the plant outside faced storms, strong winds, and scorching sunlight. Every time it faced a storm, its roots grew deeper into the ground to hold it steady. Over time, it became strong enough to stand tall, no matter what came its way." The boy listened intently as his grandfather continued, "Life is the same, my dear boy. If you always choose the easy path, you might feel safe, but you won't grow. True success comes when you step out of your comfort zone, face challenges, and overcome them. Obstacles are not barriers, they are stepping stones that make you stronger and wiser." The boy looked up at the big tree, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. He smiled and said, "I understand now, Grandpa. Just like the tree, I need to face the storms in my life to grow strong and successful." His grandfather placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Always remember, son, storms are not your enemies. They are your greatest teachers. Embrace them, and they will shape you into the best version of yourself." The boy left the village with a heart full of determination. He realized that every obstacle in life was an opportunity to grow, just like the tree that stood tall against all odds. My dear friend, life's challenges may seem difficult, but they are essential for your growth. Embrace them, and you will find success on the other side of every storm.